But can you easily name just a few contributions Black people have made to our country? Probably not.
It's that time of year again. It is officially February, the shortest month of the year, and I can think of no better time than now to honor Black history. Now I'm sure you white devils, you pale-faced demons that are listening, are used to the lies and the propaganda that is spread on this most sacred and holy of months. But it is my duty, it is the job I have set forward for myself to expose you to the real history of the superior Black race. You need to learn the truth, and I'm here to help facilitate that. We're not going to cover the whitewashing of history, the civil rights movement, Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, Martin Luther King Jr. Get that white propaganda out of here. We're going to be dealing with the truth, the real history of the world, the history that has been kept locked away and hidden from you for far too long. You need to know, and I need to get the word out there. But before we get going, I need to unburden myself. The guilt is killing me. I can't live with the lies and the deception anymore. This image was not drawn by my girlfriend Jade. It's a lie. It's part of my white supremacy to cover up the truth. It has been painted over, much like world history. This image was originally drawn by a strong Nigerian artist named Ubangu Atani. And I need you to see the truth because I can't live with it anymore. You know what they say, the first step is always the hardest. Physician, heal thyself. So let me heal myself now by showing you the truth. Much better. So let's start our journey of discovery with one of the bigger cover-ups over the last few millennia. I'm talking about Jews. Now, most people think they know what a Jew is. They would be wrong. That is not a Jewish person. That is an imposter. That is somebody who is trying to actively deceive you. The real Jews are the Black Israelites.
Black people are born Jews.
I'm Jewish.
No, you're not. Italo Yehudi.
He loved Jacob. Who's Jacob? The so-called legal Latinos and Native Americans and the Seminole Indians.
That is some compelling evidence. You heard him. Native Americans, Latinos, and Blacks are the real Jews, not those imposters in Israel. Now, the Black Israelites are out there preaching their message of tolerance every single day.
Death to all you crackers, man.
That's right.
Fucking punks, man.
That's right. I want to bash your fucking head in, man. That's right.
And all you so-called white people, you punk faggots, you going into slavery, all right? We're going to destroy you, man. By the way, all you so-called white women, you're going to get brutally raped down here.
Right. Right.
But you put to death.
That's right.
And all you so-called Asians, you're going into slavery, all right?
That's right.
You're going into slavery, all right, where you belong.
Now, some of you white devils might be having some difficulty understanding this. You might be asking yourselves, where do I fit in? Where is my history in comparison to the true Israelites, the Native Americans, Latinos, and Blacks? Well, I'm going to let Mike Tyson explain it for you.
Calling him Neanderthal.
Yep.
You Neanderthal? Because wait, man, that's all he is. You a caveman, man.
That's right.
You a caveman that stole everybody's history, stole everybody's the way of living, and then combined it all together and said it was yours.
And if that wasn't clear enough, I'll let his compatriot expand on it a little bit more.
What it says in the scriptures, God do hate.
Yeah.
That's
right.
And that's not the only thing he hates. He hates many things. It's in the scriptures, man.
Yeah.
He hates Esau. Who's the Esau? He's the progenitor of the so-called white race, man.
Well, there you have it, white devil. Now we know the true history, that the Jews are really black people. You thought you could pull the wool over their eyes, but they're not having it. All you Neanderthals and cave dwellers are on fucking notice. The real history's getting out. All that fake bullshit in every history book and recorded language, all the passed down tradition, it's all a smokescreen. We know who the real Jews are, and they're not the people inhabiting Israel. Those are the imposters. And how shameful that you would try to take their place and their accomplishments. And the Black Israelites are more than willing to spread that message of truth to anybody that would try to impersonate them.
6 million who the Holocaust.
Are you saying the Holocaust is a joke?
It's a joke.
That's
right. That's right.
Don't you dare. Don't you
The
dare.
Holocaust is a damn joke. The Holocaust is a joke. Hitler, yeah, cry, white boy. Heil Hitler. You ain't nothing. We've been through it. You ain't been through it. Black people have been through it.
That's right.
That's right. That's right.
That's right.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
That's right.
But the deception, it doesn't just end there. Not only were black people the original Jews, they were also the original Egyptians. Now, I could bore you with highly academic sources going over very persuasive arguments as to how black people were actually the original Egyptians. We could sit here all day and talk about how dark those mummies be and shit, yo, and go over famous pharaohs like Charcoal Hotep, but I think I've got better evidence, more persuasive evidence for you.
Evidence
I'ma show you who Nefertari was. Said she was black because that's the way that my name. I'ma show you who Egypt was a black man, King Tut was a black man.
How can you deny that? Just let the beat fill your soul. Can't you feel it? Can't you feel ancient Egypt screaming out at you and saying, hey yo, what's up? You want some fuck, baby? I think I can. I can feel it deep in my bones. Now sure, you could be one of those naysayers and bring up the point of, well wait a minute, if black people were the original Jews and black people were the original Egyptians, does that mean they enslaved themselves? When God said, let my people go, was he saying that to his people? Because apparently that would have to be the case. Something's going on there, but I'm sure it's just my white devil brain trying to break down reality and put up the illusion that we had a hand in crafting the world. Clearly we didn't. Clearly white people have done nothing, and black people are responsible for pretty much everything. And you're going to see that, because that's what this video is about. Since we're already on the subject of stolen accomplishments and the ancient Egyptians, I'd like to bring up a fact that a lot of white people want to try to deny. It's a truth that they've tried to sweep under the rug of history. Now, I'm sure most of you are familiar with the myth that white people invented rocketry, that white people took us into outer space first. That is an outright fabrication. It is not true at all. The truth is, the ancient Egyptians took us into space first. And we've already established the ancient Egyptians were really black people from Africa. That's right, I'm talking about aeronautical niggas. Look at those hieroglyphs. How can you deny the truth that is before your eyes? That is a UFO. A UFO designed, built, and flown from Africa. Now, you may not believe me, but there is photographic evidence. If you go to the South African Historical Society archive, you can find this picture. It is Chief Head Scientist Umbana Nwana. He is the man that developed the Egyptian rocketry system. He is the man that brought Africans into outer space before anybody else in the world ever was there. Now, it's important that you acknowledge this accomplishment, because I know a lot of people seem to think, and it's crazy, that Europeans and then Americans developed the space program. That's not true. After all, if you let that lie stand, the next thing you'll be telling me is the Aztecs weren't actually black people either.
The Aztecs were original black Native Americans who lived in central Mexico. Native Indian Americans have been very jealous of the Aztecs and other blacks. Although today many Mexicans like to claim that blacks are trying to steal their history, it's the other way around. The Indian Americans are trying to steal the history of the blacks, such as the Aztecs.
This has to end. White people, you need to stop trying to take credit for the accomplishments of proud black civilizations, whether it's the Jews, the Egyptians, or the Aztecs. Now, I'm not certain what exactly compels you to do this. Maybe it's an inferiority complex. Maybe you've not accomplished anything on your own, and you want to take credit from other people that have. Well, that's just sad. That is really fucking sad, white people, that you would do that, white people. Really fucking sad. Now, you may be saying to yourself, wait a minute, I've been to school, I had to read a history book. How is it that I'm not aware of these things? Well, that's because of the historical revisionism that's taken place ever since the Renaissance.
Right here, you see the front, you see the Archangel Michael in the middle, Jesus Christ, right next to him is Gabriel. What color are they painted? They're painted very dark. But in many books after 1453, they're painted white. Why? You had famous iconoclasts, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, Donatello, 3 Ninja Turtles. They were hired to paint over these images. When I went to Rome and the Vatican and I saw the Sixtine Chapel, he was hired to paint biblical characters, Caucasian men. Why? So that when a lot of people begin to read the history of the Israelites and Jews, they would think that they were Caucasians. Listen to what the Greeks did. Because iconoclasm, breaking images, that's nothing new. The Greeks took the records of the Israelites and they painted over them as white men.
Those goddamn Europeans, they just don't ever stop. They constantly take credit where credit's not due. Not only do white people try to take credit for what black people do, they try to impersonate them by painting over their historical portraits. Where does it end? How many historical figures were actually black?
But I just want to show you something that's very interesting in this book, that the original rulers of England and Britain were black.
That's King George of England. The light-skinned black man.
You clearly see the Vikings as black men.
Do you see that with your glasses? These are black men. Jesus is a black man. They know that in his hometown.
Beethoven.
Black.
Mozart.
Black.
Henry VIII.
Black.
William Shakespeare.
Undoubtedly black.
My God, does it ever end? You heard the list of famous black men throughout history: Mozart, Beethoven, King George, Henry VIII, the Vikings. You know, the people that they try to claim are Scandinavian? Not at all. The Vikings were black men. Even William Shakespeare was a black man. Which is slightly awkward considering Amelia Bassano is the lady who wrote all of Shakespeare's plays because she was black and they would not publish her work. She died in poverty because she never received a dime for her work. Shakespeare was illiterate and could barely write his own name. I think we've got another one of those Egyptian and Jew situations. If William Shakespeare was black and they published his work, why wouldn't they publish Amelia Bassano's work because she was black? God damn it, this must be another example of white privilege. Look at me trying to analyze history with facts. That is stupid. We don't need facts, we need the truth. And the truth here is, William Shakespeare was a black man who had major success in England writing plays, and at the same time he was also a white man who used the work of a black woman because he was illiterate and couldn't sign his own name. Of course, it's not just the white devil that's doing this, it's the yellow devil as well. Caption this: Japanese couple. The woman on the picture is straight up black woman. For samurai to be brave, he must have a bit of black blood. Japanese proverb: know thyself. For a samurai to be brave, he must have a bit of black blood. Ancient Japanese saying. 35,000 BC, a group of these African Chinese, later known to us as the Jomon, took this route and entered Japan. They became the first humans to inhabit the Japanese Isles. Chinese people have the Bushmen of the Kalahari Desert features. Even Buddha's involved in this. The original Buddha rocking the hairstyle we call today Bantu knots. Know your hair story. Our people even migrated to Asia. Buddha was not the fat white Asian statues you see today. I hope that you are just drinking this in, because not only have white people stolen all of black people's accomplishments and impersonated them and rewritten history books and redone paintings, all of Japanese and Chinese history is a lie, because Japanese and Chinese people are actually black as well. Everybody is black. South American and Central Americans, they're black. Europeans, black too. Asians, black as well. There is not a single place on Earth that has not covered up the fact that black people are responsible for every single human achievement that has ever happened in human history. Perhaps, though, you need a little bit more convincing. Well, it is Black History Month here in America, so let's talk about American history. Let's talk about the first president of the United States. Now, I know a lot of you, if I asked you who was the first president, are going to say George Washington, but that is a lie. That is pure white propaganda. No, the first president of the United States was a black man. A Moor. George Washington was not the first president of the United States. He was the 9th. The real first president of the United States was John Hanson, who understood the importance of war and was concerned. He served as president from 1781 to 1782 AD. In fact, he sent 800 pounds of sterling silver by his brother Samuel Hanson to George Washington to provide for the troops with shoes. They tried so hard to cover the true Moorish identity of John Hanson because of his great accomplishments as a leader. Since Euro-Americans have their roots in England, it must be very hard to accept the fact that the true father and founder of their country was in fact a black man. You can pick your jaw up from the floor there, white people. I just dropped a truth bomb on your ass. I've napalmed you with reality. Now I know it must be difficult to accept this new reality, this great truth that's been hidden from you. I'm sure for the longest time you thought the first president of the United States was actually George Washington. You are fucking retarded. It was in fact a black man, and they've been covering that up for far too long. We need to get the word out. Now I'm sure you white supremacist naysayers out there are going to bring up things like, well, wait a minute. The oldest surviving heliographic engraving is from 1825, and the earliest photo we have is actually from 1826. So how could you possibly have a photograph of the first president of the United States when he served from 1781 to 1782? Hell, in your desperate struggle to hold on to your white lies, you might even bring up the fact that John Hanson died in 1783, making it physically impossible to have his photograph taken when photography actually did become realistically feasible. Well, that's just more racist bullshit. I'm sure you're going to vote for Trump. Those facts, quote unquote, aren't really true. They're up on Wikipedia. We might as well rename it Whitepedia because that's what it's full of. White bullshit. You see, photography was invented well before the 1800s. Back in 5200 BCE, that's before Common Era, which should really be retitled BWL, before white lies. A tribesman by the name of Untangu Kakano invented photography in the oldest known surviving photograph in world history. This is Untango getting a self-portrait done. Look at the genius before you. That is the father of modern photography, and it perfectly explains how they would have got a picture of the first black president, John Hanson. Now, if you've made it this far, and your eyes have been opened, I have one final piece of truth for you. It's the big one. We've talked about how every group on Earth is really black people, and every accomplishment that's ever been conceived has been done by black people. But what about the white people? Those goddamn interfering cave-dwelling Neanderthals. Where do they come from? Well, it's time to share that story with you. Here is the truth behind where white people come from. It starts thousands of years ago with a brilliant scientist named Yakub. This happens to be an artist illustration of what Yakub might have looked like. No, that's not upside down balls with hair on it. That is what Yakub actually looks like. He is the progenitor. He is the source. He is where white people come from. And I'm going to share his story with you.
It took 600 years to breed Yakub's albinoid tribe, and every imagination of their heart and all of their actions were wicked continuously. The evilness of the albinoids not only affected themselves, but also affected the other peoples of the world. Yakub's albinoids returned to the city where they were exiled from. Once back in the city, it took only 6 months for Yakub's albinoids to cause chaos and war amongst the Ebenoid people. The king of the Ebenoid people realized that it was Yakub's albinoids who were causing all the trouble, and the king made a decree to drive Yakub's evil albinoids from amongst them. The king rounded up all of Yakub's albinoids and stripped them of their clothing, and put an apron on them to hide their nakedness, and sent his army with them across the desert to cross the burning sands into the place which is modern-day Europe.
That's right. White people are a science experiment gone wrong. They wreaked havoc across the world until they were finally exiled to Europe and held prisoner in caves. But the Neanderthals couldn't just leave well enough alone. They finally broke out. But when they broke out, boy howdy, was it a dark time in the world.
Free from the caves, Yakub's albinoids went on a rampage throughout the earth, conquering and subjecting the Ebenoid people, pitting one against the other using the idea of divide and conquer. And so, Yakub's albinoids ruled the earth for 6,000 years, spreading their devilishment, evil, pain, suffering, and oppression to the Ebenoid people of the earth as designed by the big head scientist Yakub.
And this is the oppression the world has been living under for far too long. But don't fret, because salvation is just around the corner.
After the 6,000-year rule of Yakub's people, the Ebenoid people would give birth to one whose wisdom, knowledge and power would be infinite. Yeah! One whom the world would recognize as being the greatest and mightiest since the creation of the universe, and that Yakub's old warring wicked world would be removed and destroyed, and the Ebenoid nation would be restored into power to rule forever and to establish a world of peace and righteousness.
Rejoice. Our Savior is among us, and while we wait for that final victory, that final salvation, take comfort in knowing that you wasn't just kings, you was everybody.
Okay!